So today I'm going to show you how to make my rustic buttonhole rose. This is basically one of my wild roses with 3 loops of twine, and I've decorated it with 3 sprigs of artificial heather. This piece is bound with twine, and you can still attach it with a safety pin or a dressmaker's pin, or pop it through the buttonhole hole on a suit jacket. This arrangement works really well with my test bouquet, which, if I haven't already published it, this tutorial to make this bouquet will be in a few weeks' time. So if you haven't yet subscribed, do hit subscribe and you can create some lovely wedding flowers, but more on that in another tutorial. So to make this buttonhole rose, you will need an old book. You will also need some kitchen foil. You will need some scissors and a glue stick and some either high-tack glue or regular PVA glue. You'll also need some florist tape, and I used for this rose 3 little sprigs of heather. Now, I've picked these up in Hobbycraft, but you can probably pick these up in any kind of craft shop where they sell these type of little floral embellishments. You will also need to have a glue gun for attaching the stem to the flower head. So the first thing we will do is prepare the stem, and for that we need to tear off about 20 to 22 centimetres of kitchen foil. And then, as always with these foil stems, we need to fold the foil in half 3 times. And then scrunch it at one end, and then simply roll it between your fingertips, and you'll create a loose stem shape. Now that's too much for one buttonhole, but if you're making several, you can use the other half for another buttonhole. The next stage is to prepare our book pages. So we will need 4 pages from our book. Now the final finished size of this rose will vary depending on the book size and the book margin. But this is a standard size regular paperback. You can get slightly larger ones as well. So we'll take one of our book pages and we want to fold the corner up to the edge so that not the edges align, but the text aligns. And then cut it off into a rough triangle. And do the same for the other 4 pages. And then take one of your triangle shapes, and with the long side to the left, we want to fold it into a smaller triangle, and if you can, try to align the text up again here. So now we have a point to the left and a straight edge to the right, and we're going to fold it up into a precise triangle this time. And then what we want to do is simply make a petal shape. Now I find that if I place my thumb like that and I kind of cut around it, that works really well. And if there's any sharp edges, I'll just kind of round them off a little bit. And I will also cut a few millimetres off the bottom. And what we end up with is a flower shape, like so. So I'll fold that back up for now, and I will just quickly make the rest. You can use the one you've already cut as a template if you want to be sure that you're making them all the same size. So take one of your shapes, open it up, and we want to cut down one of the folds and then cut a single petal off. And what I like to do is place the single petal to the right and the larger flower shape to the left. And the next shape, we want to cut off 2 petals, and the next shape we want to cut off 3, and this last one we simply want to cut it in half. We only need the shape of 4 once, but if you're making several, then you can use this on your other roses. So at this stage, what we want to do is take our glue stick and hold the petals with your fingertips and glue one of the petal shapes, bring around the other and place it on top and press firmly, and you've got a lovely little flower shape there. And we want to do the same for the next. This rose is basically my wild rose, so if you've seen the wild rose tutorial, you'll know how to do this, but and if you haven't and you'd like to, do go and take a look at my playlists. So, runaway glue. So for the petal shape that we have left with just 3, I kind of just like to fold one side over, glue, and then fold it over and press down so that we've got the 2 petals. And for this one that's like in a heart shape, we want to take one of the petals and curl the edge into the fold. So, and then on the other side a bit of glue and just roll it around on itself, and what we've got is a little cone shape, isn't it? Press that firmly so it holds in place. And this last one with just 1 petal, we want to kind of roll it around itself to make like a straw shape. And I'll just put a little bit of glue on the overlap. It's got a tiny little point, 1 millimetre or 2 at the top, and at the bottom I will just give it a little bit of a twist because I want to make that a little bit narrower. So take the 2 smallest shapes and snip a little bit off the end of the straw shaped one, and we want to put some high-tack glue along the bottom, and then we simply want to insert that into the cone. And we don't want it pointing out over the edge. I have to bring this up. We want it just sitting just inside. And what we'll do now is put some high-tack glue around the bottom of this shape and pick up a shape with 2 and push it in. It will just poke out the bottom, if it doesn't, just give it a little gentle press. Sometimes you might need to cut the opening a bit more, but that's perfect. And a little bit of glue here. It's a bit like assembling some of those dolls, isn't it? Push that through and the end will just pop out the bottom. And a bit more glue just around the lower portion. And that's just enough to hold everything in place. And then pop that through. And then what I normally do for the last two is pop that down there, and I'll put the glue around the inner, just in the circle or the hole at the bottom there, and I'll press that down just in place. You don't have to worry too much about damaging the paper, because it would damage if you pressed very hard, but just a little gentle push is fine. So what we've got is our rose shape, and it's got a little tiny portion at the bottom there, which we'll use to attach to the stems. So what we'll do now is we need to heat up our glue gun. So whilst the glue gun is heating up, we will prepare the twine, and just take the twine and take the edge to line up with your lower finger, and then I'll spread my fingertips out about 7 centimeters, and I will wrap once, twice, 3 times, and then keeping hold of the loose end, I'll pinch the twine together and snip off some twine, and then I'll put a little bit of glue around the bottom of the twine and just roll a bit of florist tape around on itself, just to hold that all in place. Then put that to one side. So to attach the stem to the flower head, we just need to put some glue from the glue gun on the foil stem, and then press that down onto the little bit there that's sticking out, and perhaps just up onto the petal very slightly. Doesn't have to be very much, just enough to hold it in place. So once that glue has set, I will then add, oh, I can't get this on the screen, my lead's not long enough. I will put a little bit of extra glue just around the outer edges of the stem, just to make sure that isn't going to go anywhere. So I want to trim the stem to about 9 centimeters from the top. And I usually dig my fingernail in just so I know where to cut. And I'm going to take my florist tape, and I'm very simply just going to make sure that all of the glue is covered underneath the rose head, and just roll some of the florist tape down, maybe about 2 centimeters, and then I will take my twine loops add a tiny bit of glue and make sure that the twine loops are poking over maybe 1 centimeter or 2 from the edge of the flower head, and I twist the florist tape around the stem, and then I'll do the same Again, a bit of glue, and I will take my pieces of heather and I align these so that they're sticking up about 4 or 5 centimetres, and I'll twist that into place and I'll push them out of the way because I don't want them to squash the flower. And then I just carry on winding the florist tape down the stem. And then I'll double back on myself. And just secure the end of the florist tape with another little bit of glue. So at this stage I will push the flower head forward slightly and just arrange the loops and heather. And what we need to do now is just to bind the stem here with the twine. So with a little bit of glue, so I'll add a bit of glue around the lower portion of the stem, and I'll take my twine and using my fingers and thumbs I will roll the twine over the end, hold it with my finger, roll the twine back over and hold both ends with my finger and thumb. It is a little bit fiddly. Once it's all in place, I will then bring up the twine to the bottom of the stem and just roll it around a couple of times. I will add more glue, and you will get it on your fingers and you will get twine stuck on your fingers as well. And then just simply wind the twine. Now we need to make sure that this is nice and tight, and we will put extra glue on at the end. But basically, all you need to do is wind the twine up the stem, a little bit of glue as you go, just so it will hold in place. If you get any gaps, you can just squeeze it down. As you get to the top, snip off some of the twine and loop it around and tuck the end of the twine underneath the loop, and then basically tying a knot to secure that in place, and pull it tightly, and then you can snip off the twine and we're going to put some of the high tack glue, which dries clear, all around the top edge, and a good dollop around the bottom. We really don't want that unravelling. So, but this does work. It will hold everything in place. So you can attach this with a dressmaker's pin, and you can reposition and curve the stem as you need to. But I'm going to let that dry and then I'll show you the finished result later.